Who's good at drawing? Are you kinesthetic? All right. Here's what I want you to draw. On this board, a big old heart. But I don't want you to draw it anatomically. I just want you to do a Valentine's heart. Is that easy enough to do?
Yeah.
That's how I like to do mine. Do it with a black marker. But I think this black marker's trash. I had to borrow some. Yeah, I don't want you tripping. Don't get caught tripping. So just do a big old heart. I mean, as big as you can in the middle of that board, but leave some room because I've got some roads that need to, yeah. That's good. It's a good size. Now, I want you to we're gonna make the atria, and why is it so hot in here?
It's real.
Is it? We're gonna make the atria, and we're gonna make the ventricle. You guys know how to label all these structures? Y'all know all of them? If I were to offer extra credit to someone to trace a drop of blood from the right atrium all the way through the entire heart, the entire body, and back to the right atrium, could somebody do it? And name every structure that it passes.
Is
You
it
wanna try?
How many extra points are we talking?
8 to 10?
18, like you've been asking for all day. No, listen. No, we're not doing anything that's going to confuse my auditory people, or my visual people, or my kinesthetic people, because moving and talking and drawing is going to confuse everybody. It's got to be right.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. You'll confuse people. So what do you think?
Who else feels more confident? We can do some of this together. Absolutely. Can we tag team?
I don't feel confident. I don't want to mess up my auditory.
I think
All right.
me and
What about
Stephanie
if
can
what
do
about if you verbally tell me? Yes.
Well,
What
verbally,
exactly
I
are you asking us? Are you asking?
I'm
us
asking you to be able to tell me that blood enters into the heart through the right atrium. It passes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. It comes up through the pulmonic valve to the pulmonary artery. Drops off what? Drops off what? What does it drop off? CO2. It picks up oxygen. It comes through the pulmonary veins to the left side of the heart, which is the left atrium, and then it goes into the bicuspid, because it's always right to try, but when you're left, say bi, the bicuspid valve to the left ventricle, up through the aortic valve, through the aorta, okay, to the heart, to the entire body, drops off oxygen and nutrients, picks up carbon dioxide and waste, enters the right side of the heart through the inferior and superior vena cava into the right atrium. No?
No. My mind didn't know. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. It has to know what I just told you, though, moving forward. It has to. It's not optional. Do you know why it has to? Any idea why? Let's draw these structures. Any idea why?
Circulation.
So if I have something going wrong, instead of memorizing what someone with left-sided heart failure looks like, or memorizing right-sided heart failure, okay, they're gonna have Lasix and you're gonna be swollen and what was the other bullet point? Why are y'all learning? It's not learning, that's stress, that's pressure. You wanna understand it. So if we know these structures, right, and you have a traffic jam in that structure, if you know where the blood is coming from, then you'll know what it looks like when it backs up. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You'll know what it looks like when it's broken. If you've got blood coming from the lungs into the left side of the heart, but you got left-sided heart failure, that's a traffic jam, isn't it? When you have a traffic jam on the road, where do the cars build up? Behind it. So that's gonna be a person that has pulmonary edema. They're gonna be having pink frothy sputum and can't lay down because they're coughing to death and they can't breathe. Does it make sense? But if you didn't understand the structures and you didn't understand how all that's flowing, then you're literally just memorizing. So you see why you have to get it? All right, let's look at it. So here, I want you to draw me a right atrium and a left atrium. Here's the thing, I'm giving you a different type of heart. So that means we've got some flexibility here. So here's gonna be my right ventricle. See how I did that? So make me one of those and then just make me a boop boop for the left atrium and the right atrium. By the way, atrium FYI, the word atrium in whatever language, Greek, Latin, it means, yeah, I like it. It means upper room. Atrium means upper room. So your atrium, y'all have atria in your houses, especially out here. If that doesn't work for you, these look like V's, right? A comes before B in the alphabet. I'm giving you a couple ways to get it. Don't care how. Your A's in the attic? Yeah, there you go. That works too. However it works for you. All right, now using blue, here's the other thing. What color are arteries? Somebody's gonna trigger me. Trigger alert. What color are arteries?
Red.
Arteries are blue? Or they're red?
Arteries away, so they're oxygenated.
The aorta's an artery. What color is the aorta?
Red.
Well, I'm talking about, well,
The
if it's
pulmonary
like-
artery is
I
an
thought
artery.
you-
What color is it?
Well, pulmonaries are the opposite.
Arteries
No,
are
it ain't
red,
no
veins
opposite.
are blue.
Well, pulmonary
Red.
and the
Guys,
arteries bring this.
whoever told you arteries are red and veins are blue, but in the heart it's switched, lied to you. That's a horrible strategy. What you started off with was your first answer, and you should stick with it. Arteries, we're not looking at the color. We're looking at, someone else said it, what it carries. That's what we care about. Understood?
Well, that's why I said the color, because it would be blue if it has.
No,
oxygen.
that wasn't your first answer. That was your second answer. Your first said arteries take
Arteries
away.
away, yeah.
So stick with that, because
Okay.
that's the fact.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what color it is. Arteries carry blood away from where? From the heart to whatever it's carrying it to. Veins carry blood toward the heart from wherever. It doesn't matter what color they are. So if I say that I have a pulmonary artery, I know that it's carrying blood away from the heart. And because it's pulmonary, it's probably carrying it to the pulmonary system. Does that make sense? So someone write down that one. You can write down these words wherever you want to write them. Make a little word bank for yourself. Pulmonary artery. We gave you one structure. The aorta. It's the biggest artery, isn't it? Aortic artery. That's what I like to call it, aortic artery. That artery carries blood clearly away from the heart, but where does it carry the blood to? It takes it back to the heart, because clearly it does, and then it takes it to the rest of the body. That's why you have coronary arteries. Right, got it. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins, I've got a pulmonary vein. Veins take blood toward the heart. So if I have a pulmonary vein, this vein is taking blood toward the heart from where? The pulmonary system. Make sense? Doesn't matter what color it is. The color is just based on what it's carrying. That's it. And then, big veins. These are Mac Daddy veins. Superior and inferior vein cava. You want a chair? Good. Keep moving. Superior, what does that sound like? Above, that's taking blood toward the heart from everything that's up. Your head, your neck, your arms. Yes? Your inferior vena cava, that's taking blood where? To the heart from where? The abdomen and your lower extremities. Does that make sense? All right. So we just talked about that one. I like to start with that one. So you do it in blue. Yeah, you got it. Draw me an inferior. It's just gonna go inferior and superior vena cava. Your best. Just one little. That's a Mac Daddy vein.
Oh.
Yeah, let's do it like that. And then that one, it's a big one. I'm not worried about aesthetics.
Okay.
I want you to just put your hand on the board. So how do I usually like this when you draw? I'm trying to think. Oh, let's just make it like this. Like that. How's that look? And then let's make it look like they're friends. Yeah, because what happens is they meet up here. Cool? Y'all like that? Can you label it for me? SVC. Put those letters on the inside or somewhere, I don't care where. SVC. And what do you think that one is if you give it 3 letters? I do it. You ever heard of a patient getting an IVC filter? Now you know where the filter is going instead of trying to memorize. You have to know your A&P, folks. You cannot be a nurse and not know your A&P. Sorry. Okay? IVC. They put a filter in here to catch deep vein thromboses that get dislodged. We don't want those clots to go to the heart. So it's a little umbrella filter that catches them right here. Pretty cool, right? IVC filter. Anyway, blood comes through the inferior, superior vena cava and meets at it's on the right side of the heart, yes? So what is this one? Put a big RA in there. Inside of that RH, or that right there, where that X is also something called the SA node, okay? We'll talk more about electrical conduction in a moment, but that is the SA node. And that represents sinoatrial. It is your heart's pacemaker. And you're thankful for it because it's what allows your cardiac muscles to beat on their own and contract on their own. See, your muscles, see what she's doing? She's intentionally doing that. She's manually, voluntarily twisting that marker in her hand. Her brain's telling her body to do it, even though it was probably subconscious right now. However, if you had to manually tell your heart to beat 60 to 100 times per minute, by the way, some of y'all would be dead. Yeah, I'd be like, oh shoot, I'm driving. Beep. Okay, beep, beep. Oh, look at that cute little puppy. Boo. Flatline. Thankful we have our own little SA node that's firing on its own, right? 60 to 100, that's where it's located. So the first door that you have to go through, because you're going through doors, the first door that you need to go through, it's always right to try. So it's the right side of the heart. That's the tricuspid valve. It's always right to try. So right there in between the A and the B, right in that wall there, you can write try. Yeah, you can just write try. Yep, very good. And the reason why it's called tricuspid is because there's 3 cusps on that flap. All right? It's always right to try, so it goes through the right atrium. A comes before V. So if it's right atrium, what's the bottom room? Write that RV there for me. Cool. Now, from the right ventricle, that whole side of the heart is complete. It is separate from the left side. The right upper and right lower are connected, but they are separate from the left side. That happens as soon as you take your first breath as a baby. But before, and as long as everything's normal, but before that, all 4 of those chambers swirl around together in utero. Which is the reason why you have to fully understand this, because if you don't, when you get to peds, cardiac, mark my words, is going to jack your brain up. You understand me? With those congenital cardiac anomalies, it'll blow your mind up. So you really understand the normal, then only then can you understand all the abnormals. All right? So once you take a deep breath, all these different holes and ovals and foramens, they close up. And it allows for there to be 4 chambers that are 2 separate. Okay? So from the right ventricle, we got to go through another door because there's someplace else we need to go. Where do you think we need to go? I've got deoxygenated blood. I know that I do because it's come from the body. Okay? So let's do this. I want to do it this way. It's going to be kind of a, y'all know what I mean. gonna look like this. Okay, can you draw some lungs there for me on either side? Just a big old, yeah, that's cool. Her lungs are teardrops. All right, so here we go. Big old heart. You have one heart, two lungs. That makes sense. So you have this big old vessel that is now taking blood from the right ventricle away from the heart. It's a major vessel taking blood away from the heart. What is it? I know that it is an artery because it's taking blood away from the heart. And it's taking it to those lungs, making it a pulmonary artery. Okay? So it's dropping off at both sides. What kind of blood is it dropping off? Deoxygenated. And what is it picking up? Okay. So if it's picking up oxygenated, it's got to come back in. Can it come back into the right side? With your cardiac anomalies, it does, and that's not a good thing, is it? Bringing oxygenated into deoxygenated? That's a mess, isn't it? Thank goodness we have normal hearts. They need to come back in through vessels that take blood to the heart. What kind of vessels take blood to the heart? Veins, and they're coming from the pulmonary system. What are they called? All right, so pulmonary veins, you've got two on each side. They look like, imagine two French fries, just like how the pulmonary, but they're smaller. So do two French fries on either side, but don't do it in blue. Do it in greens, we don't have any red. Oh, dang.
Just anywhere or somewhere?
Do them underneath the pulmonary artery. So you've got
I like,
French fries there, yup, just like that. Well, there's two of them. So,
it's like
yup,
here,
yup,
here.
yup, just like that. Yeah. Yup, she got it. Now, someone may think, okay, but is it dropping it on the right side? No. Just as the superior and inferior vena cava met at the right atrium, those two pulmonary sets of arteries, okay, they meet where? Pulmonary veins, I mean. They meet where? Behind the left atrium, upper room. So, go ahead and write your LA. Now, it's always right to try, but when you're left, you have your other marker? You can do it in that color. Mm-hmm. It's always right to try, but when you're left, put it in the same place as you put try. When you're left, say, bye. AKA my. It's the bicuspid valve, otherwise known as the mitral valve, otherwise known as the PMI, which is the point of maximum impulse. Also, where you find AKA your apical pulse. All of that takes place there. Okay? Bicuspid valve, also known as the mitral valve, that's where we have our point of maximum impulse, where we listen at our apical pulse. With the stethoscope, don't try to palpate it. I did that in nursing school because I thought it was a pulse and I thought I was supposed to. There was no direction. Don't laugh at me. There were no directives. I'm just teaching you not to make the mistakes I made, that's all. All right. So what's the ventricle now that's below that lower room? Okay. Okay, so there was a door I went through to get into that pulmonary artery up there, that big blue artery. The door is named for the vessel. So what was the name of that big old door I went through to get into the pulmonary artery? It's a valve. Pulmonic valve. So write a little PV up there. Right in the center. Right in the center there. So yeah, that's the door. So write PV. Yeah, pulmonic valve. You had to get through that door. Now, you're going to do the same thing, except for there's a big old vessel. It's taking oxygenated blood to the whole body. So draw a big old loop, like however you've seen the aorta look. From the top of the heart. Yeah. Yeah, that's good enough. Make it big. Make a big old thing.
There's only so much.
Yeah, go all the way up. And yeah. And it's going to come all the way down. There you go. What is that? That's her aorta. Now there's a door. What's that door named? The aortic valve. Okay? You got it. Now, That oxygenated blood is going to travel through the whole body. It's going to drop off. Now here's where you got your capillary bed, capillary exchange, right? Anytime you have the dropping off and picking up on either side, it's a capillary bed, okay? So I'm going to drop off my oxygen, pick up my CO2, and as I pick up my CO2, I'm going to come back in through my inferior and superior vena cava. That's the loop. It's the whole loop. So I want you to put a big old X over where that blue X is on the right atrium. Put a black X. Let's do a different color. Y'all have a lot of roads out here. But in Orlando, so you don't have very, very much traffic. Oh, we have traffic. Y'all ain't seen no traffic. Just telling you ain't seen no traffic. It's all perspective. So when you only have one major road, or maybe two, if you have an accident, and let's say it's one lane, you know, everybody, even if it doesn't affect anything, they're rubbernecking, meaning they want to stop and see what's going on. And then as soon as you pass the accident, everybody's flying. Nosy. But maybe there's, so in that case, you still have some traffic going through, right? So imagine if I have a one lane traffic jam. That's going to cause some backup, but I still have cars coming through, right? So if I have a little bit of a damage or issue on the right side of the heart, blood's going to back up some, but blood will still come forward. So can you, with a red marker, just allow there to be a little line that shows blood coming forward through the, yeah, do you see that? So blood's still coming forward. If blood still comes into my heart, it still goes to the lungs, it gets oxygenated, drops off CO2, picks up oxygen, comes back into the left side, and gets pumped to the body. That means I still have a cardiac output, don't I? But is it decreased? So in that case, I've got some medications I probably want to take. Now let's go back to farm. I want to take a medication that's going to increase the squeeze of my pump. Because I need more cardiac output, don't I? So DIG. I'm going to give DIG for people who have heart failure. Textbook. Probably the only time I've ever given DIG. Digoxin. I'm saying it, I think I've said it 3 times. I'll say it 2 more if you need me to. DIG is all over NCLEX. It's going to be all over ATI. It's going to be all over your next exam on Thursday. DIG, 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 DIG,
I
DIG.
just spell it.
DIGOXIN. Know that med for the rest of your life. Okay? DIGOXIN. So that's a positive inotrope. While that's going to increase the squeeze of the pump, just because your heart is beating faster does not mean it has a better cardiac output. Actually, the faster your heart beats, the lower your cardiac output. That's why when you're working out too hard and you get dizzy because you don't have enough. So with DIG, in order to get that good squeeze, to get that positive inotropic effect and that cardiac output, DIG is known to slow down a heart rate. Because of it, you are not going to check someone's radial pulse and multiply by 4. Not gonna happen. NCLEX will not, they will deny you licensure if you say that. They want the most accurate pulse, not your radial. The radial is not the most accurate pulse, and neither is the carotid. Which one is the most accurate pulse? Your apical pulse. Thank you. I'm so excited. That's mitral, point of maximum impulse. Yes? How long am I going to listen there? Because listening for 30 seconds and multiplying by 2 is not going to give me an accurate number. You have to listen for a full minute. I can make my heart beat 50 times in 30 seconds, and I can make it beat 100 times the other 30. I can literally control my heart rate that way. Someone has a sinus arrhythmia, it's not going to be accurate unless you get the full minute. Understood? Don't play with it. I know we all cut corners with doing vitals, but this is not one you want to do that on textbook and real life, okay? Because if you give it to someone whose heart rate is less than 60, you will cause their heart rate to drop even lower. Probably more so than a beta blocker will. So we don't play with it. Got it? Okay. All right. So DIG, this is a good one. Causes positive inotropic effect. What if I have a complete block on the right side of the heart? Or at least 3 of my 4 lanes on the highway are blocked. What's that gonna look like? It's gonna look real bad. What's my cardiac output gonna look like? It's gonna be very, very low, okay? That's gonna be a patient that has probably a very low ejection fraction, or EF. You've heard of that before, right, from an echo. That's someone who also, if that's what's happening, they have little going forward. What's happening behind the damage? Lots of backup. So you have a vein, and I'm giving you all a break. You have a vein called the main brain drain vein. That's what I call it. That's what my teacher told me it was called. Main brain drain vein. It's otherwise known as the jugular. Yep. Kind of lays right alongside of the carotids. Main brain drain vein.
Main brain drain vein.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know.
Main brain.
Yeah, it's main drain vein that drains your brain. It's the main vein that drains your brain. Exactly. So here's the thing. If you've got a traffic jam, is it able to drain into the right atrium? Nope. Okay. If you haven't yet either heard it or seen it, there's something called JVD, jugular vein distension. JVD is textbook right-sided heart failure. Textbook. Reason being is I can't get the blood in. So it's backing up, and that's exactly what it looks like. This vein is juicy. It doesn't pulsate because your arteries pulsate. It's just huge. It's vascular congestion. These things that y'all are seeing in the clinical setting or in your regular, your work setting, or that you just come across, whatever, it's connections are being made. They're being made. This is what I'm talking about. What we're doing right now is literally how I taught my study groups in school. This is how you should be teaching yours with your peers. Yes, ma'am.
How do you do it at home by yourself?
Talk to yourself. Get a whiteboard. Know your learning style. When my learning took off was when I got a big old whiteboard, not these little rinky-dinky 8x10s. But it only works if you're visual kinesthetic. If you're auditory, you don't need to be drawing a board. You need to be talking and speaking. Okay. So teach stuff to your kids if you're auditory. Repeat it to someone that will listen, a dog, who cares. Get a whiteboard. Get all colored markers. Man, I had a big one. Probably about a quarter of the size of, half that. A big one. And that's what I did on my whiteboard. Very first time, and I was like, oh, so if I have a blockage here, this makes sense. So this is why, right? This is what I did. Step up. Now, did my studying take a long time? Absolutely. But once I got it, I never had to study it again. So that's one less thing you'll have to study the next class, and the next, and the next. Okay? All right, so let me just make sure I don't want to touch on anything else before I go on. Oh, yeah, I do. One last thing, and I promise I'll break you. So you understand, what it looks like when you have right-sided heart failure. Yes. Because you know where the blood's coming from. What about the left side? Say it? Yeah. Put a big old X there. Yeah, no, just on the left side. Or by your little pulmonary veins. Put them there if you want. Yeah. So,
Does it need to be bigger?
no. So I've got decreased flow of oxygenated blood into my left ventricle. That's a problem. That means I have decreased blood getting out to my body. It's still decreasing my cardiac output, but in a major way, because this is purely oxygenated blood. But guess what else it's doing? It's causing that oxygenated blood to back up into my lungs. As that oxygenated blood, which remember, blood also has fluid in it, as that oxygenated blood is backing up into my lungs, it's not uncommon for these patients to have vascular congestion where they will cough, if it's productive, pink, frothy sputum. Making sense? It's making sense. This is how you study, my dear. There's no other way to do it. Makes sense, right? This is also why when you try to lay them down, they have orthopnea and they say, I can't. They feel like they're drowning because they are. And they have to sleep in a recliner. So here is how I would make a connection. The nurse is caring for blah, blah, blah. 50 patients on a med-surg unit. Which state of this patient is newly diagnosed CHF? Which of the following statements by your patient requires further investigation? My feet are swollen by the end of the day. Who cares? That's normal. Right? Hi.
Hi.
Not my feet. My patient's feet with CHF.
Sure.
Got it. For the last few days, I've just had to sleep in my recliner by a window. Stop! That's oftentimes an option. Students are like, who cares about your recliner? You're not thinking. You're not making the connection. You see how I did that? Don't toss that away. The thing that you're most likely to just toss away really quickly is probably the one you need to hold on to. What's the problem with the patient sleeping in the recliner for the last couple of days by the window? They're having issues breathing and they gotta sit up because of orthopnea, because it's a sign of worsening heart failure. So yeah, that's requiring further investigation. You guys need to think of yourselves as little Sherlock Holmes. You're little investigators. You're not monkeys going in there doing monkey skills. You're not. You are brilliant people with brilliant minds, and you're going to find stuff that the doctors and nurse practitioners aren't going to find without you. But they're not going to be able to find it if your brains are not on overdrive. Make sense? So take a break. Your brains are on overdrive.